Welcome, focused learners. Let's jump right in. Today, we're exploring a breathtaking piece of grim Gothic literature. And to truly unpack its core themes of memory loss and emptiness, I'm going to do something a little bit different for this explainer. I'm dropping right into character. For this journey, I am the Jester's shadow apprentice. I enthusiastically invite you into this dark fairy tale, a graphic novel-style fable all about what happens when the very weight of our past is violently stolen from us. So picture me here. I am the spilled tar. I am the ink-stained apprentice. I exist as a pool of shadow, lying completely flat and immensely heavy at the exact center of a hollowed village. Towering above me is my master, the Jester, and in his hand he holds this silver quill, a terrifying object that literally seems to drink the ambient light right out of the air. It's a vivid sensory nightmare, but it brilliantly sets the stage for our story. Act 1. The Weight of Secrets. From my vantage point right here on the cold stone, we can analyze this hallowed village from the ground up. This isn't just a destroyed town, it's a theatrical tragedy of erasure taking place right in front of us. The villagers wander the streets around me, but they look like translucent ghosts. They're just drifting aimlessly. And why? Well, because they no longer possess the weight of their own pasts. Their shadows, which actually represent their hidden secrets, have been peeled away from them. And what were those peeled shadows used for? They were pooled together to create me. Memory, in this fable, acts as a literal physical anchor. This introduces an absolutely crucial literary concept, the anchor of secrets. It's the lifetime of hidden truths and memories that gives a human soul its literal gravity and connection to the earth. Without this anchor, what happens? These living beings become like feathers in a gale. It is fascinating and honestly terrifying. They are entirely unable to leave even a single smudge or mark upon the world they once called home. Act 2. The primary ink. This brings us to the arrival of our second major figure and the visceral sensory experience of my own dark purpose. I, the faceless silhouette, am about to become an instrument of erasure. Notice the stark visual contrast playing out. On one side, we have the obsidian doctor stepping forward. He's anchored. He possesses a crushing physical weight, his robes literally shifting and rippling with the stolen faces of the dead. It is a macabre tapestry. But contrast that with the hollowed villagers. They are translucent, floating, completely devoid of the heavy memories that keep a person grounded. It's a terrifying, untethered lightness clashing against the doctor's immense gravity. Then comes the sharp agony and the cold purpose of the procedure. The obsidian doctor dips his staff, which is made of blackened bone, straight into the shadow pool at the Jester's feet. He plunges it into me. I am the well for his final decree. Can you imagine the visceral horror of being used as the very ink of destruction? And what an image this creates. This is a pure graphic novel aesthetic playing out in our minds. The doctor begins to write on the walls of the empty cathedral with this primary ink of reality, my essence forged from the weight of a lifetime's worth of secrets. But here's the catch. He isn't recording the names of the people. No way. He is recording the void they have left behind. And with every single stroke, the primary ink literally drains the remaining color from the landscape. The trees turn to brittle glass. The soil turns to salt. Act 3. The Celestial Rot. Let's shift our shadowy focus upwards from the earth to the dying sky above. The Jester watches this happen, and his cruel observations perfectly highlight the tragic literary theme of memory loss. Look how thin they become, he mocks. He peers upward through his arcane starfinder, charting the very decay of the constellations themselves. Through it, he focuses on a woman who has been stripped so entirely of her past that she can't even remember her own mother's name. It's an incredibly sad, devastating moment, wrapped up inside this dark fable. Let's walk through this timeline of celestial decay, which tracks right alongside their physical detachment. First, the stars above continue their rot, falling from the sky like glowing embers into a dark sea. Second, the familiar constellations completely vanish. The Jester charts all of this with his starfinder. Finally, the third stage, a terrible lightness becomes a physical force. Because these ghost villagers have absolutely no heavy memories to hold them down, they're pulled helplessly upward toward the guttering sky. And the most chilling part? They don't even scream. They have no breath for it, and absolutely nothing left to resist with. Act 4. The Perfect Surgery. We are now reaching the clinical, horrific finality of the doctor's process. I experienced this from the ground, feeling my substance completely drain away as the very last drop of my shadow ink is finally spent. Let's break down this surgery of silence step by step. The doctor treats the magical removal of existence as a brilliantly methodical, chilling operation. Step 1. Peel the shadows away from the living beings, extracting a lifetime of secrets. Step 2. The doctor reaches the end of his ledger and strikes a final coordinate line through the village's location. Step 3. As my last drop of ink is used, the very architecture of the village, the homes, the markets, the graves, begins to fold inward. And step 4, it shrinks perfectly down into the doctor's palms until it's nothing but a blank page of white dust. So what is the crucial point to take away here? It's the absolute finality of the act. The perfect surgery is the sovereign of the void's procedure, and it treats existence itself as a cancer to be removed. Entire lives, markets, and graves are sealed like a tucked-away letter. It leaves nothing behind but the pristine silence of the void. Literally just a blank page resting securely in the obsidian doctor's hands.
Act V, the Sovereign's Harvest. We've arrived at the grim conclusion. The ledger is closed. The void is firmly established. And I, the exhausted shadow apprentice, am unceremoniously tucked back into the heels of my master. Above me, the jester lets out a laugh. It's a hollow, chilling sound, exactly like dry leaves skittering over cold stone. Our work here is done. Together, the doctor and the jester turn their gaze toward the next flickering light on the horizon, guided only by the dying pulse of the North Star. They're moving on. The next harvest awaits.
Let's summarize the eerie aftermath of what they've just left behind. They leave behind a world without a single smudge, a terrifyingly pristine place where the sun could theoretically shine forever, but it would never, ever find a single soul to cast a shadow. Everything has been erased. And notice the resulting balance of power here. The absolute spotless emptiness of the landscape is directly contrasted with the immense collected weight the doctor now carries. With all those stolen faces and secrets, his robes are now described as being as heavy as 1,000 winters. And that brilliantly illustrates the sheer devastating power of memory, or rather, the void left in its absence. I want to leave you with a haunting question taken directly from our source text. Would you like to see how the doctor and jester approach a city that has tried to counterfeit its own shadows to hide from them? Turn your gaze inward for a moment. Think about your own hidden secrets. I challenge you to wonder what happens when you lose the heavy memories that are currently tethering you to the earth. It's a lot to process, isn't it? Keep asking those big questions and remember the weight of your own secrets.